The new version of free-stockdb has just finished a severe month test period, and all major bugs have been resolved. Versions for both Mac and Linux are about to be released. free-stockdb is our local quantitative data engine that targets a shared daily and minute bars, as well as ETF minute and tick data. It synchronizes, cleans, adjusts for dividends and splits, and stores the data so it can be queried in bulk or used for calculations without reaching out to a remote API. You can update the engine by double-clicking the download package, then double-click to launch it. It works out of the box. Local data storage. All data is stored locally on your disk, so you no longer need to rely on a remote interface. The engine uses incremental synchronization and only processes data that has changed. It supports daily, weekly, monthly, 1, 5, 15, 30-minute bars and tick data. You'll find 39 technical indicators and 5 indices ready to use, and you can call the engine in 5 different ways: via Python SDK, HitPappy, Excel WPS, HTML web pages, or the MCP protocol used by AI tools such as Claude or Cursor. A simple data flow occurs after a sync. Data is cleaned, adjusted, and stored in a local database. The Python SDK, HitPappy, Excel interface, web page, and MCP all read from the same local data set, so there's no coupling to a remote request chain. Why a local engine matters for a full market backtrack of over 7,000 or share stocks. The most time-consuming part is not the strategy code but the data engineering. Using a remote API approach, each minute bar would have to be requested one by one, which can take 3 to 5 days because of request limits and IP restrictions. All the data prep steps: downloading, cleaning, adjusting, storing, calculating indicators, mapping sectors, and building indices can take an additional 10 to 15 business days. In contrast, free-stockdb completes the sync phase in 30 minutes from zero and allows the first full market strategy to run almost immediately. The data engineering layer runs locally and can be updated independently of strategy code. What the engine provides out of the box: direct access tokens, frequency limits, IP bands and interruption recovery, incremental source syncing and file checksum validation, handling of new issues, suspensions, delistings, code changes and historical corrections, a unified data organization, adjustment factors and query protocol, database scheme, indexes, bulk insert, and query optimization, a C++ time series service that can read by code and by time window, pandas data frame stitching, rolling window calculations and intermediate caching, a bulk indicator and index calculation API called zbget, multi-interface support, Python, HTTP, Excel, web and AI tools. After synchronization, every query, calculation or backtest depends only on the local data. Updating the source and conducting research are independent processes. Getting started in 2 minutes for Windows users. Download the release package from the releases page. The first run involves 1. Launching the free-stockdb tool. 2. Syncing data to the .data folder. 3. Starting the free-stockdb service. 4. Querying immediately with any of the 5 interfaces. Once the data is on disk, subsequent updates only touch the changed records, so you can still query or backtest offline. Data storage and sources. The historical data is compressed with ZSTD, which reduces the disk footprint to roughly a third of a CSV or MySQL dump. The first sync fetches full history from a configured source. Later updates only pull incremental changes. The dataset focuses on high-frequency market data and adjustments, but low-frequency data such as earnings, macro indicators, or fund flows can be added to the same local engine if desired. Core capabilities: the engine offers daily, weekly, monthly, and minute bars, even tick data on demand. It includes price, volume, turnover, valuation, market cap, and special flags such as ST. It can provide pre-adjusted, post-adjusted, unadjusted prices and original adjustment factors. Both stocks and ETFs, as well as industry and concept boards, are organized for bidirectional querying. The local storage guarantees no remote latency, so your research and backtesting are not throttled by any API rate limits. You can also host a LAN service for collaboration or distributed backtests. Batch querying is done through a simple function call with parameters such as codes, time range, frequency, and fields. Indicator calculation is handled by zbget, which takes the indicator names, codes, date range, frequency, and various optional parameters. The board mapping is accessed through bkget. All 3 calls resolve to local data, avoiding unnecessary data movement to external APIs or temporary data frames during analysis. The engine ships with 39 built-in indicators, sorted into trend, oscillation, channel, volumetric, and comprehensive categories, and 5 index calculation methods: equal weight, free float market cap weighted, turnover weighted, volume weighted, and total market cap weighted. 5 ways to call the engine. Python SDK suitable for backtesting, research and strategy development, supports synchronous get data, and asynchronous get data async. HTTP API. Any language can talk to the local system. Example: HTTP 127.0.0.1.7899 CMD equals get and T equals. Excel WPS macros convenient for spreadsheet analysis, screening or office automation. HTML web page, a no-code interface that lets you view, filter and browse market data. MCP AI tools that support the MCP protocol can query and compute directly against the local data without installing an extra SDK. The MCP protocol is self-implemented and requires no extra installation. Once an AI tool connects, it can call getData, ZBGet, or BKGet to retrieve local data, compute indicators, or analyze sector information. Controlling and reusing data sources. The input source is not a single point of failure. You can switch the syncing node by editing the sync URL.txt file to point to your own server or in a network share. You can also sync archived snapshots locally using a file path. Co-written interfaces allow you to inject other market feeds or update your own data. Even in environments with no internet or token, you can still query and backtest against a snapshot of the local data. Data quality and adjustments. Unadjusted raw market data and adjustment factors are stored together. When you request data, you may choose pre-adjusted, post-adjusted, or raw prices. Local APIs let you sample and verify adjustment factors, prices, volumes, and corporate actions. If you prefer your own data source, you can generate or validate the local data yourself. Hardware and storage requirements. The minimal configuration includes roughly 5 GB for daily bars and about 20 GB for a full minutable dataset. The database uses compressed storage, so the disk usage remains well below a CSV or MySQL equivalent. A modest RAM requirement, 2 GB, is enough for daily usage, though 8 GB or more is recommended for performance. Windows 7 or newer and Linux are supported. Local network and security. The service defaults to listening on 127.0.0.1.7899, so it never exposes a port to the public internet. The sync tool only contacts URLs listed in sync URL.txt or passed as a command line argument. Before writing a sync file, it verifies the SHA-256 checksum in size, and public sync nodes should use HTTPS. The release package can be validated against the SHA-256 checksum supplied on the releases page. Building from source. The CPP folder contains the local server, sync tool, a client example, and the CMake build script. Use CMake 3.14 or newer, a C++17 compiler, libcurl, and OpenSSL. The release package is pre-compiled, so Windows users can skip the build steps. Updates and running examples. Example screenshots of the update process and database operation show how the local engine works in practice. Licensing. The repository is licensed under the project's license. Data rights, usage terms, and redistribution are governed by the individual data sources and their owners. This project is for educational purposes, data management, and quantitative research, and does not constitute investment advice. All data integrity, timeliness, and trading risk are the responsibility of the user.